Hi, everyone, and welcome. So, today I am going to do some reading sprints. As some of you might know, normally I was going to do these yesterday. However, life got in the way. We had some issues at work. If you're on my Discord, you know what I'm talking about. But today I will be able to do some reading sprints. I'm very happy about this. I do hope that I will be able to do some more in the future because I don't know if this is just a meeting, but I hear other people talking about this as well, where at the end of the evening, you realize that you've just been scrolling social media and you haven't really done anything that you want to do. Scrolling social media is fine, but if you want to read and at the end of the evening you realize that you actually didn't do that, that's just a shame. So I do want to do these evening reading sprints. It is, of course, Central European time here. So for me, it's evening, it's 7 p.m. right now, and then get a more useful feeling out of my evenings. So let's hope that you can join me. And of course, as always, if you are reading a book, please let me know what you are reading, what you plan to read. And if you're doing something else, something productive, also let me know because I love to hear it, what you're going to do during the sprints. I know that sometimes I rewatch reading sprints just to do something in the kitchen to feel like I'm not alone and I listen to the conversation afterwards. And while people are sprinting, I'm just cutting onions or something stupid like that. So if you're doing something like that, definitely let me know. Either, of course, in the chat if you are watching it right now, or in the comments if you're watching afterwards, if you're a little bit silly like me and you do watch these reading sprints afterwards. And by the way, before we continue, please let me know if sound is okay, because this is the new setup for live streams, and I do hope that this works out quite a bit. Hi, Hans. Hi, it's fun to see that a couple of people, even though it is Central European time, and I do know that in the US, for example, this is not the best time to do sprints. It's good to see that there's still a couple of people here. Chadia. Yes, exactly. I've had a pretty productive day already. I say that, but I was home quite early because yesterday I had to work late and I was a little bit stung by that. So I decided to today leave early. So I was home in time to the light not being away yet. So it wasn't dark yet. So I could have a long walk with the dogs. We had an hour-long walk, then just dinner. And now I do plan to read. So hopefully, if everything works out, I will be happy with what happened today. Hi, Kitty. It's always fun to see that a lot of people were able to join. Yes, the UK is also perfect timing right now. I think that a lot of people, if you're in Europe or in the UK, you probably just finished dinner and then it's just perfect to start reading, because if you wait for too long, it might just happen that you fall asleep and you get lazy. Aha, not the only one who rewatches reading sprints. Perfect. Ooh, reading Beloved. I don't know if you say is it beloved, but I'm reading The Realm of the Elderlings right now, and Fitz says beloved, so that is how I am going to pronounce it now for the rest of my life probably. But having a bit of a bad day. Ooh, it's I think that it's a pretty heavy book, right? It's not the genre that I normally read, but I have heard of the author. So yeah, maybe if you're feeling a bit down, switching to something that is more uplifting to say the least might be the best choice. Dialectic. Is this another hate read, Ralph? I wouldn't be surprised. I think that you talked about it on the Discord, but I do hope that you won't get too frustrated, my friend. Ah, morning in Canada. It's it's always amazing to me to see how with something very silly like booktube, a lot of people get together from all over the world, and it shows me that no matter how far away we are, we still have basically the same hobbies and the same things that we're interested in. So that's always perfect. Okay. That's good to hear. I had one experience, I think that's a year ago at this point. It was around Christmas, where afterwards some of you guys said that the sound wasn't perfect. And I thought, well, okay, not perfect. I'm not that much of a perfectionist. It's probably fine. And then I rewatched it and it was the worst sound ever. The people who stuck around for that live stream, you guys are saints because I would have bailed after 5 seconds. So ever since, that's something that I always check before continuing. The Caillou Preservation Society by John Scalzi. Okay, that's sci-fi, right? As always, I know something about fantasy and nothing about everything else. Ireland. Ooh, Secret Santa list. I've made my list. Yeah, by the way, for the people who are not on Discord or not that active on Discord, we are having a small Secret Santa. I'm so excited for that. I really love the holiday season. It's the I don't know how to call it, but I just really like getting slowly closer to that season. And then it's not even that bad that it's darker outside because it's cozy. But then afterwards, it just needs to be summer already. But yes, the Secret Santa list. I'm just waiting for one more person to really decide that they want to continue, and then by the end of the week, I'll probably set everything up. Hi, Marlene. Joining with pizza is always a good idea. I think that Drawing of the Tree is the second book in the Dark Tower. I DNF'd that book, but it's been a very long time since I've read it. I read it in Dutch, I think almost 10 years ago, and at this point, I think I would have known before going in that it's not the type of fantasy that I would enjoy, but I continued at that point. I was still very hopeful, but I do hope that you will enjoy it more. Hi, Esme. Oh, Joanna, yeah, of course, you're in the same time zone. Perfect. Chew. Is Room by Emma Donoghue a book that's been... I don't know. I've seen a film, I think, or a movie that was called Room, and now I'm wondering if it's that book. I'm not exactly sure. Is it a type of very emotional read? Pizza, beer, and cultural Marxism. I don't have beer. Well, sometimes I forget things. I was either going to put a kettle of coffee on or get myself a beer, and I haven't done either. Maybe during the sprints. We don't have them enough. Yeah, I know that some other small booktuber, Amber, I don't know what her channel is called, but she used to do every Monday evening reading sprints, and that was amazing. And I don't think that she's doing them right now, because otherwise I would have normally gotten the notification. So I really miss that. Some European-friendly reading sprints, yeah, exactly. Especially during the week, because of course during the weekend, you can make things work, but during the week it's a little bit more difficult. I might have cried again, Shadia. It's such an emotional read. I'm currently listening to Fool's Quest. That's not the one that I'm going to read right now because I'm listening to it on audiobook. And when I get home, I try to read the physical books that I still have on my shelves that I really need to get through. But I'm probably going to, well, so Fool's Quest is the second book in the Fits in the Fool trilogy for anybody who's wondering. And I actually really want to finish this one and then immediately get into the third one. But I will have to listen to The Trouble with Peace by Joe Abercrombie in time for the live show that we're having somewhere in December. But then I'm going to get back to the Fool. Damn it, I knew that I was happy too quickly. If it continues, then we'll have to see what I do. I do have a microphone here as well, so then I'll just click it on here. So definitely let me know if it gets worse or if it gets better. Okay. Well, it's one of those things in life where I'm just not that well read. I know something about science because I need to know something about science, otherwise I would be doing a very bad job. But everything else, I had a little bit of philosophy when I did one semester of law school, but don't really know too much anymore. Hi, Chris. Oh, by the way, I know that there are always a little bit of a delay with the chat, so please let me know in time if you want to have 30-minute reading sprints or 45-minute reading sprints for the first sprint. It's always a shame. I know that you, Raf, you read a lot more thoroughly and you like to think about the text, so even if you dislike it, you still get something out of it. But for me, I'm always extremely sad when something is just not as enjoyable as I would have thought. Because I always pick up a book hoping that it's going to be a new favorite, and that's just not really realistic, I suppose. second one. Yeah, I think that I like the first one a little bit more, actually. I think with the second one, it was even more obvious that he was mixing different genres, and that's just not what I like. But I can appreciate what he did there, and I do understand that a lot of people do enjoy that. But for me, it's like fantasy is fantasy, sci-fi is sci-fi, and horror is horror. Ooh, okay. I usually have my bedtime during the week between 9 and 10 p.m. because I'm old, but and also because when I get to work, I need to get up pretty early. I try to get up before 6 a.m. It doesn't always work. So I just need to get to bed early. But tomorrow I can work from home. So that's perfect. Ah, okay, Raf, you were talking about the Dark Tower. Yeah, I like Gunslinger a little bit more, even though I do realize that if I would have picked it up now, I would have probably already DNF'd Gunslinger. Yes, exactly. That's the movie that I was talking about. If you don't know the end of the story yet, because I do think that this one is fiction, right? I'm not going to spoil it, but the movie at the very least was very hard hitting. Rhythm of War. Are you enjoying the series? I think so, because Rhythm of War is the fourth book. So if you've gotten that far, you're enjoying it. And I do hope that that big project works out. I think that for now at work, I had a pretty hectic day yesterday, but at this point, I haven't gotten any emails after 12 this. Do you say 12 a.m.? I guess so, right? Around midday. That was the last time that I got an email. So the afternoon, no stress. Okay, so yeah, that's another thing. I was reading the second book and then I DNF'd it, but I wasn't really into BookTube or reading communities, anything like that. So I thought, well, when I got back into it and when I heard a lot of people say, well, The Dark Tower, it's a masterpiece. In the first books, you're not really getting into it, but afterwards it gets better. I was thinking about maybe giving it another try, especially because I still own the books. But then people said that it got weirder and weirder as it progressed. I just don't think that that's going to be my type of series. Yes, exactly. I wasn't entirely sure, but normally we will be discussing the trouble with peace on the 11th of December. I think, Raf, that I told you it was going to be 5 p.m., but Jose asked if 8 p.m. was also okay because then his kids were going to bed and he could have a beer. So I said normally that that wouldn't really be a problem for any of us. Yeah, I I usually do a pretty good job at being able to read a Robin Hood book, then put it down and read something else because I want to savor it as long as possible. So usually I wouldn't really binge the entire trilogy, but with how the last one, Fool's Assassin, if that's the first book of the Fits in the Fool trilogy, with how that one ended, I just had to continue with the series. And I'm loving it even more. I've recently saw a video, I think today, of currently reading by Badger Reads, and she's also reading it right now. She's reading Quest at the moment, but she wasn't really enjoying it that much. So I do hope for her that it picks up. But for me, yeah, it's an all-time favorite series at this point. Okay, so 130 minutes and a lot of people 45. So I'll guess we'll start with the 45. Okay, because most people say that that's okay. And yes, I do make the rules, but I'm okay with either one. And I have made some timers because I don't know why. I wanted to have a nice timer, but okay, so normally you can share screens, but then you need to have, or at least I haven't figured out how I need to do it. You need to have two screens. So one screen is then where I can watch, and then one screen I put the timer on YouTube full screen, and then you can share a timer. but I only have one screen at the moment, and I wasn't allowed to share, to borrow my husband's screen. So I decided to make timers because then I could have a nice background, a cozy background with a timer on it, and I didn't need to have a second screen. So that was what I was doing today when it was a little bit calmer at work. And I have 30-minute ones and 45-minute ones. So ah, I can relate. Like my dogs are asleep right now, so that usually means that they will not be asleep very long in the night because they're already asleep right now at 3 a.m. They've had their 8 hours of sleep and they want to go outside. So I do hope that they'll get a little bit more active in a minute. It's funny how people's tastes change that much or are so different among each other. Because I think that I used to like more temporary books, and now I'm into fantasy and everything medieval. And if fantasy has guns, I'm immediately like, this is too modern for me. But if you like the blending of genres, then yeah, Stephen King is probably the way to go. Yeah, I understand the struggle. I'm also a mood reader, usually, and I used to put TBRs because I don't know, everybody did TBRs, and I figured out that maybe I should do them as well, and maybe it works out. But I think that now I have the sweet spot with seasonal TBRs because if I just sit in front of my shelves and I decide on the spot what I want to read, it's just I have too many options and my brain blacks out. And now I have a seasonal TBR where I still have the freedom to pick something in between if I really want to, because I have less books on the TBR than I should get through in 3 months. But I at least have some type of guideline. Damn it. Well, I think if it gotten worse, that the best thing to do probably is do the reading sprints, and I'll try to see what's going on. Because I do know that this one has a microphone as well, and sometimes he connects to this one instead of the microphone that it should. So I'm going to try to figure it out during the sprints. I can assure you that I have a pretty normal voice at the moment. But yeah, I'm glad that at least it's funny and it's not extremely annoying, but I will figure it out by the next quiz. So for now, oh, by the way, I haven't even shared what I am going to read. I'm going to read Deerskin, but I'll talk a little bit more about it in 45 minutes, let's say. So happy reading. Hi everyone. So the 45 minutes have passed. Please let me know if this audio is better or even worse. I'm trying something. I do not know if I am completely muted here, but this is the one that I usually use to record videos. However, usually it's plugged into my microphone, my camera, and now it's plugged into my laptop. So I don't know if that works the same. So please let me know if this one works, and otherwise I will pick another one. Okay. It wasn't working until I changed some settings, and then at least it seemed like something was happening. So I'm glad that it sounds better. So, how did everybody's reading go? I wasn't really able to tell you a lot about Deerskin before the reading sprints, but this is a standalone. It's an older one. Well, when I say older one, I just mean that it hasn't come out in the last 5 years. Going to have a look. Oh, it really is old. It's 1993. So it's even older than I am. And I heard that this is a very emotional read. This is backlist fantasy that you should probably get to, especially if you like fairy tales and stuff like that. And I can definitely understand that. This is basically the story of a princess who is very much like her mother, who died when she was younger. Her mother is extremely beautiful. And then something extremely tragic happens that makes her leave the castle together with her dog. Now, I love animal companions. I love very character driven stories and I love emotional reads. So I picked this one up thinking that I would absolutely love it. And well, I'm having a hard time getting into it. This is, of course, the mass market paperback, and I've talked about this before, and this is really first world problems, but I have very weak wrists. So often, having to read from a mass market paperback, it hinders my enjoyment just a little bit, which is why I do have an e reader at hand. And usually, I just like either hardbacks, but most of all, the very floppy paperbacks. So this is definitely not an ideal choice for me. However, I think that it's also maybe just a little bit the writing style as well, because it starts as the typical fairy tale where you have an overview of the kingdom and it's pretty distant from the characters at this point. I must say I'm only 40 pages in. It's only chapter 5 that I'm going to start, so it's really not fair, but it is also only 300 pages. So it's either going to be pretty fast paced and then something might change with the writing style. I might just need to get into it, or it just is a very distant writing style. So far, it seems like we have an overview of what's happening, but we never really zoom into a scene where you see a dialogue happening or something just very profound happening to the character. It's really just a narrator telling you, we had a king, we had a queen, this happened, this is how the princess felt. It took until chapter 5 where we actually get the name of the princess, even because before that she was just called the princess. So for me, it just feels like I'm not really connected to the characters yet. Of course, this just chapter 5, it might change, but usually I'm very quickly connected to younger characters, so we will see what happens. It's also older than what I usually read, so maybe I just need to get used to that older type of writing, even though I know that Ewan said, now I feel old if old is already 1993. Well, for books, because I usually am somebody who reads more newer releases. And I think that that's also something about BookTube. A lot of people, booktubers, and that's myself included, we talk about stuff that just came out. So, of course, that's all that you hear about. Those are also the recommendations that I get from books that just came out or came out in the last 10 years. And especially, of course, series get a lot more recognition as well because, well, if it's a trilogy, then that trilogy will get talked about 3 times when there's a new release. While a standalone, it's one and done deal. So I think that that's why when I pick up a fantasy book that's even before 2005 it has been published, it feels like it can have a lot of reviews on Goodreads. Nobody on BookTube is talking about it, and that's sometimes a shame. By the way, very happy that the audio is okay. Oh, that's good progress, Hans. I didn't make a lot of progress because, like I said, I wasn't really feeling the book. I read maybe 20 pages, which is not that much for how much I usually read, but it's fine. A pizza sprint is also allowed. Yeah, it's sometimes it's strange to think about that kind of stuff that books are, well, this is 1993, but of course you have classics that are hundreds of years old. This one is 1 year older than me, so sorry for making some people feel very, very old. Ooh, 6% of the book. I want to go back, but I'm a little bit afraid that I'll lose where we are. But what are you reading, Chalia? I'm just going to do it. Maybe I won't find it. I'm not finding it. Oh, okay. I'm completely lost where I was right now, but I hope that at the very least you enjoyed those 6%. I've never heard of that, so it's very much possible. It doesn't really say anything about the fact that it's a retelling. And I also read the introduction about why she named the book Deerskin, but it doesn't really say anything about a retelling. But now I need to look that up. Yeah, we do need some of those once in a while. And I do enjoy my standalones because, like I said, series is what you hear about because you have multiple entries. And standalones, I also really understand the appeal of series. I love reading series because you can really get to know characters, you can get to know the world, and that's fine. But sometimes it's just fun to pick up a standalone. It's a one and done deal, and it's a great palate cleanser. I love my standalones. Well, 3 pages and Amazon stuff is also great. I did a lot of things today besides working, I'm sorry, but I also made my Secret Santa list, and it's just fun. I really enjoy feeling like a small child again, looking at all the things that I want to have. My husband doesn't really understand this, by the way. He doesn't have a wish list, which is the hardest thing to get him something because we usually, and this is also why I like Secret Santa, we don't really give each other gifts from on my side of the family or on his side. So I just give something to my husband gives something to me, and that's basically it. We have one friend group that we also do Secret Santa with. So this bookish Secret Santa on my Discord and on Steve's forum is just a very fun way of just getting a present and not knowing what it is. But with my husband, it's very stressful because he doesn't have a wish list. When he plays a PC game, for example, he's playing that Call of Duty one. He plays that for years, and he's okay with just having that one game. He doesn't really have an entire wish list. He's the exact opposite from me in that perspective because I have wish list for everything. Because even I'm not a big gamer. I maybe game once a year, and even I have a bigger wish list of PC games that I want than him. But I am the easiest person to buy something for. Ooh, 40 pages of The Priory of the Orange Tree. It is a big read. It's on my fall TBR. I actually started reading it a couple of years ago. I think it was before I was on BookTube, but I already watched some videos. And I picked it up because it has an absolutely beautiful cover. But I wasn't really into the story at the time. I paused it at that point at 80 pages. And then I just never really picked it up again. So it's now on my fall TBR. I'm going to give it another chance. And part of it is because I saw the cover of the sequel, and that's so pretty. So I just wanted to have it. But yeah, it is a very chunky book. And at the first 80 pages, I wasn't really invested yet. But of course, for an 800-page book, 80 pages isn't that far in. Such an emotional read, apparently. It is one that I'm going to butcher the name. So Tori Morrison, is that the person who has written Beloved? If you tell me that it's going to be a very emotional read, I probably want to pick it up as well because I think that she has multiple that fit that narrative quite a bit. I actually really enjoy that. I think that both Yurav as Chris over at Chris Bookish Cauldron and Badger Reed is also a person who does this. I love when booktubers talk about stuff that I haven't heard about on 10 other channels. And that's nothing bad about those 10 other channels because I'm the same. I just get recommendations on BookTube. So if people talk about new books on BookTube, I'm going to read new books. But that's why it's so fun when some booktubers talk about older releases, about books that nobody else is talking about and that are just amazing. I've picked up, well, Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Merlier, of course, is not an unknown book, but I heard about it first over on Huck's channel, Badger Reads. Picked it up and I was completely in love. And it's an older fantasy series that, well, Daughter of the Forest is of course the first book, but it is an older fantasy series that you don't really hear a lot about because it's not new and it definitely deserves some more recognition. Forgetting Moon. Ah, yeah, you talked about it on Discord. It's like Petite Set on Discord. It's one of those series that I wasn't really sure what to think of it, but if both you and Paromita enjoy it, I probably need to give it a chance. But it's 4 extremely chunky books, so not right now, at the very least. 30 pages of a difficult book is definitely a win. I remember when I was reading through Malazan, if I read 15 to maybe 20 pages an hour, I was extremely proud of myself. I did it, Chandia. Yeah, I think that most fantasy readers, and I'm the same, if I had to choose between reading only series or only standalones, I would probably read only series, just because I am a character-driven reader, so I love the investment. Realm of the Everlings, I'm almost finished, and I do think that it will be my new #1 favorite series of all time. So if it's a great series, it can achieve more than a standalone ever can, I think. But yeah, there are positive points for both of them. I I actually don't really know if I like to cry and be emotional about fantasy reads because it is fantasy, right? It's very disconnected from real life. I don't know if an actual hard-hitting book about topics that happen in real life. I don't know if I well enjoy them is the wrong word to use in any case, but it will probably hit you completely differently. And we talked about that before as well, where a lot of people say that they can't really stomach grimdark, but for me, grimdark it's disconnected from our own world, so it's a very safe space of getting to know like the worst of humankind, but in a fantasy setting. I wouldn't be able to read some of the horrible things that are being mentioned in just historical fiction, for example, because it feels much more real. Happy that you're enjoying your read, Paromita, because I do know that you DNF quite a bit, so if you're enjoying it, that's a win. Oh, a grim fairy tale. As somebody who really enjoys fairy tales and fairy tale retellings, I haven't really read a lot of the original ones yet. And I've been looking for some translated works where they are combined into one to just read the original ones and then maybe read some retellings compared to. Okay. Well, with Deerskin, something it is on the back of the book, so it's not a spoiler. I'm not even at that point right now. But with Deerskin, something incredibly graphic happens to the princess, and I know that a lot of people DNF the book at that point because they think it's horrible. But because I know it going in, I think that I will be a little bit more. At the very least, I will not be surprised, and I think that I will be able to continue afterwards. Yeah, I heard mixed reviews on how the Priory of the Orange Tree ended. Some people really enjoyed it. Others said that I think that somebody told me that they either wanted it to finish sooner or that it took a little bit longer. But I have no idea. Yeah, and at the same time, I'm a little bit happy that we don't really do Christmas with the entire family because I sometimes you get in a lot of knickknacks and it costs you a lot of money because you have to buy presents for 20 people and you get a lot of stuff. Yeah, that's nice, but it's a very expensive ordeal. While now I just go to my family, we do have a very nice Christmas dinner. We are together with the family and that's very nice, but it's not as expensive as when I hear some friends talk about how much money they spend in the month of December because they need to buy everybody a gift. I'm very happy that I don't have to do that. Well, you still have a little bit of time, Hans. And I should also mention that Sinterklaas, which is basically, I think it's in the Netherlands and in Belgium, probably also Germany. It's basically Santa Claus, but we have our own Santa Claus, Sinterklaas, and it is a different saint also. But And he comes at the 6th of December, but he's only for children. So children really believe in him, and then they get a little present. And I have 3 nephews. So the first half of December is pretty expensive as it is, but it's really nice to get them something, because when they get to my house and they think that Santa Claus has come in the night and they know that there's going to be some presents in the house, it's just so fun to see how happy they are. Yes, exactly, Hans. I always, when I get like a small bonus from work or my grandma gifts me something, I never have to think long about what I want, because I want just too much. Damn it. Well, I'm thinking that maybe I need to see if my husband is doing something on the computer, because this is a different microphone. I'm just going to check settings that it didn't switch back. External microphone, yes. Echo cancellation, yes. And then here, can you still hear me cracking like a little robot, or is it better now? And if not, I really need to check what my husband is doing. Yeah, I'm just reading comments, by the way. I'm sorry. I can only do one thing at a time. It's either reading or talking. I know that a lot of people say that they can multitask. I'm not one of those. Yeah, I think we talked about it at work. In a lot of ways, the world has moved on, and it seems like well, at least in Belgium, where I am, a lot of the precautions that we had during the height of COVID, we don't have anymore. But for example, when we go to get lunch at work, we still leave a lot of space open between each other's seats. Well, we didn't do that pre-COVID. We still do that now. We don't kiss each other on the cheek. We don't give hands. So there's still a lot different that you don't even realize until you really start thinking about it and make the comparison. Yeah, the grandfather of my husband, his birthday is 25th of December. And then my grandma, her birthday is the 26th. And my sister's birthday is the 4th of January. So it's all pretty close together to the holidays. So it's always a busy period. Grimdark does not exist, and traditional fancy also does not exist. I really need to remember this every time the Trump is in the chat. Yeah, it's difficult, because at the same time I think that the closer to real life stories are very important to read and to just know what some people are dealing with, because it can be very difficult to fully comprehend that from basically a position where a lot of people would be very grateful to be in. So it's very important, but at the same time, sometimes protecting oneself from these very heavy emotions are also important. By the way, please let me know. Since I need to go to bed pretty early, I like to get some reading done. So if you guys want another sprint, would you like to have 45 minutes again or 30? I have one other timer that I made for 45 minutes, and I have a couple for 30. So please let me know. Ah, okay. Yeah, I knew that it was a former colony of the Netherlands, but I didn't know that they also celebrated Sinterklaas. Well, my husband is probably going to buy me some books for Christmas, but I always need to give him an entire list. And I actually wanted to basically make these complete, because I have the first 3, and well, a month ago, I saw that the 5 are completely out from Folio Society, so I still need to have 2. But with Brexit happening and all that stuff, it's extremely expensive to get them. Like, of course, the books are already very expensive, but now you also have shipping, and then you need to pay import taxes. So I think that if you count everything up, it's almost €100 more expensive to get one book, like just the price of the book, and then everything on top of it. So it's just a little bit too crazy. So I'm going to keep these three for now and ask some other books. Yeah, I really don't understand what's happening, but we are going to do some reading sprints anyway. Aha! We have. I'm going to try this, and then we're going to do reading sprints, but then in the meantime, you can let me know if this helps. Is this better? That's weird, because I would expect if there's something wrong, that it would be wrong the entire time. Huh. I use StreamYard because it's free and it has a pretty easy interface. But it's extremely weird that at the beginning it's okay. Aha. Too high gain. I have no idea what gain is. I am a tech noob at heart, but is this better now? I'm just doing something on my laptop here. I think that I might be a little bit quieter, but it might work. Okay, 45 minutes. I am going to upload my new timer, and then I'll see you back in 45. Okay, so this is the last microphone that I have left to try. It's also the one that I have the least faith in. So please let me know if this one is okay. It's actually the one that is connected to this headphone. It's the one that I use to make calls when I'm in the car, but it's not the best quality. So if this one is also not okay, I will just switch back to the one that I had first, and we'll just see how it goes. So I'm just going to go back to the start. Hi, I have never heard of Whitehorse, but I hope that you're enjoying it right now. And it's always fun to find a channel that does reading sprints. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, it's not. It is going to be maybe a little bit embarrassing for me if you watch my older videos. I do guess that that means that I make progress. Probably in a year from now, if I watch videos that I'm making right now, I'll still be embarrassed. But my first videos, I was extremely nervous just talking to the camera, even though I wasn't even live. I was continuously out of breath every time that I started speaking. I had to try like 50 times before I had a good take. So it will be interesting to say the least if you watched some of my older videos. But I do hope that you can find some new ones there. Yeah, I think that I get just as many recommendations from all of you, both in the comments on a video as on Discord, than you get from me, which is extremely enjoyable actually, because I was not expecting that to get even more recommendations once I started the channel. I was a pretty active member of the community just watching and being on other people's discords, but this has made my TBR and wishlist even longer. That does sound very interesting, but also slightly scary because you say light horror. I am a scaredy cat. I have read horror in the past, also seen some horror movies in general, and I it's self protection. I don't watch those anymore because usually I'm just not capable of having a good night's sleep for months after finishing a book or a movie that is too scared, especially with the supernatural, like ghosts and stuff like that, haunted houses, not the best. Just going to check if the cracking is okay. Great. At least for now, they're okay. That's fun. And then I think that your graphic novel was a little bit lighter than Room, so I hope that at least the read will be enjoyable. Hi Ron, what are you reading at the moment? Nice. Still enjoying it, Marlene? Ah, self-pop science fiction? Zero Law. I've never heard of it, but I'm not well versed in science fiction anyway, and self-pub in general. I need to get more on that train because the self-pub that I've read up until this point, I've really enjoyed. I just haven't read that much. Seems like everybody is making good progress, so that's good. I am like slightly curious to see when the cracking will appear because it happened to two microphones. So it's for sure going to happen to the third one. We'll just see how long it takes. And it's actually really nice. Well, it's not nice that we have the cracking going on, but I asked on Steve's forum, I think just yesterday, if I could get some recommendations for a good microphone that I could put on the table in front of me. Because if I want to do more live, that's just easier. And the hazards that I'm having right now with microphones and all of the issues is just reinforcing my belief that I really need to have a nice microphone. And now I'm also wondering what Steve does that, well, maybe I need to look into the live streams that I have on his channel because maybe I'm cracking like a little robot there as well, and nobody dared to tell me that. But if that's not the case, I'm wondering what he does because I know that he has a lot more settings. I think because he has the version that you need to pay for on StreamYard. So I think that he has a lot of things that he
does on his end that I don't need to worry about. Oh no. I I'm wondering if you're really going to use this stuff, everything that you're reading at the moment for a video, a very angry video, I suppose. And are you enjoying your time so far? I know that it's more or less a hate read, but learning more about it, at that point, I think you are an academic, so you're probably enjoying that part of it. But it must be very frustrating to see more and more of that occurring in books that you are reading. Ooh, Malibu Rising is one of her newest works, I think. Taylor Jenkins Reid is one of those authors that I've seen a lot about on BookTube. I think that especially Regan, what is her channel called? She does a lot of vlogs. She has a very big channel. She has read all of those books, I think, but I haven't read any. It's good that you can put it down, but when it's frustrating, I had the same with Fool's Quest. There is something happening, and the main character he doesn't see it, and you know it, and one other person at the very least knows it, but you are the entire time in the head of that main character, and you're just waiting for him to finally discover what is extremely obvious. So even though I'm loving that book, it's also extremely frustrating. I don't know if it's even mildly the same as what you are experiencing with Malibu Rising, but that's what I immediately thought of when you said enjoyable but frustrating. Ooh, almost done. That is the first one for Getting Moon, or is it further in the series? Hmm. Okay, maybe I should have a look at that, and also make sure that it's not a program like you said. Maybe it is the game. I messaged my husband and he came and had a look and he didn't really see. But since this is the free program, you can't really see a lot of settings. So maybe we need to sort that out first, see that it's actually mic related and not related to the program, and then see if that one is one that I could maybe buy. Yeah, it's probably Steve like having to work magic to make me sound fine, and I'm just chatting away, not having any idea. That's good to know. Huh? I I'm always wondering when you talk about so many reads I've never heard of, and I definitely need to read more on those subjects. So maybe I'll ask you in Discord, like for a newbie, somebody who doesn't really know anything about it, where I should start. Which one have you read already, Hans? And did you enjoy it? Probably well, yes, because you want to read more of her. There are so many books that I have on my wish list, and then I look at my shelves and I think, no more. These are the ones that I need to read. And you guys already made me purchase the Broken Empire trilogy. It is Broken Empire, Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. So that is definitely one that I am going to read in 2023. I'm making my goals list for 2023, and I already know that when I'm going to look at it again at the end of 2023, I'm going to be slightly embarrassed that I have barely done anything. But at the very least, I am going to read the Broken Earth trilogy or the first book, and I hope that I will love it. For the Forgetting Moon, now I'm thinking that I might have the wrong book here. Forgetting Moon. I have Brian Lee Durfee. I thought it was a quartet, but trilogy. Hmm. It makes you sound very smart, Rob. Guess I wouldn't be able to read that for enjoyment. Oh, it's no problem, Hans. It's very funny when you readjust yourself and you hear like squeak squeak from the chair, but it's not annoying or anything like that. It seems like everybody that I've talked about really enjoyed fifth season. Is it? Yes, that's the first book. Okay. And then I think Paromita DNF the series. So now I'm thinking, okay, I hope that I enjoy it, but the vast majority seems to enjoy it. And I think that some people are having issues with that series because it speaks in second person for a small time at the very least. But I feel like I'm not really going to have an issue with that, especially because I know going in, so I know what to expect. But Rob is going to be angry again. But I'm wondering, some people say that it's grimdark, others say that it's not. So I'm very curious to see if I at least can see some glimpses as to why people think that. And maybe I'll be completely convinced that this is a grimdark series. I didn't even notice that. I always mute myself when I'm not talking, just because I have the dogs around. They are outside right now. I completely forgot to take them back in. But if they have any issues, if it's raining outside, I would hear because they bark very easily when they're not happy outside. But when I have the dogs inside and there's a live show, I will immediately mute myself just in case that they start going crazy out of nowhere. Well, I must say that I haven't really read any second person. I know that it's in that series, and now I'm really thinking like, is there a series that has that or a standalone that I just don't really recall? But usually I don't even notice second person, third person, first. Second, I would probably notice just because it's so unique. But first person or third, I just notice that usually I really like first person. But while I'm reading it, I just think, oh, I'm really enjoying this. And then at the end, I realize, ah, it's first person. That's probably why. That's good to hear that the entire trilogy is good. And it's funny that I thought it was called Broken Empire because that series I'm not the biggest fan of. So let's hope that this one is better. Okay, dark but not good dark. That's fine by me. To be honest, even though I have an entire video about what grimdark means to me personally, I don't really see the biggest difference between dark and grimdark. I like both, and then there are some grimdark books that I absolutely detest. So okay, it seems like there's a general consensus that it's not grimdark, but it's dark, angry, and political. Ooh, okay, two new books on 2023 TBR. New releases, you mean, or do you mean that you're going to do a lot of releases and only two new to you books? I think that for new releases, well, I have one new release that I recently bought, and that is this one, Heart of the Sun Warrior. I know that a lot of people thought that the first one was just fine and not great. It was Daughter of the Moon Goddess, but I really enjoyed it. So I decided to just grab this one and read it pretty soon. But for 2023, I don't really have any new releases, I think. Probably when I think about it a little bit more, I do have some, but not that many. I am still behind on the 2022 new releases, so I first need to get to those and then continue for 2023. Oh, yes, I have the Lost Queen trilogy by Sidney Pike, and I think that the third one is set to be released in 2023, but it doesn't really have a set release date. That's the only one that I can think of. Yeah, okay, The Hood. It's probably one of those books that if I look it up, I know what it is, but right now it doesn't really ring any bells. Night Circus. I really want to read something by this author, but the Night Circus, for some reason, it has never really appealed to me. And then you have the other one, the one with a key and a bee on the cover. I think that I'm more gravitating towards that one, but of the two people who have read both of them, they really like the Night Circus more. So now I don't really know if I ever want to try something by her, which one I should pick. All the truth that's in me. Oh, historical fiction. I have recently read one historical fiction, Cunning Women by Elizabeth Lee, and I really enjoyed that one. And it has made me realize yet again that I need to read more historical fiction, even if it's just 3 books in a year. It'll be more than what I'm reading now, and I just really like them. Usually, yes, it's historical fiction, so it might be pretty close to fantasy, but I feel like the writing style is completely different as well. Especially when you read almost entirely fantasy, something just slightly different already feels very fresh. More second person stories, Then I realized, apparently. Yeah, please update me once in a while about the sound because it's sad. So when you're a tech noob like me, doing lives, it can be stressful. By the way, please let me know if you want to do another reading sprint. If yes, I'll probably don't have time for 45 minutes yet because I need to go to bed. But I do have a 30-minute one if any of you are interested in that. So we could do one more sprint. Let me know if you're interested in that. Oh, that is interesting. So if I do like the Broken Earth trilogy, I might read The Raven Tower next. Somehow, and I probably have the wrong author in my head right now, but I thought that The Raven Tower was contemporary, which, well, it's probably going to be fantasy, and that's why I never really looked into it. But now I need to check it out probably. Okay. Everything else is a reread. Wow. Well, I must say that I never really reread. The only one that I reread once in a while is Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Merlier because it's my favorite book of all time. But even there, I don't reread like other people, I think. I don't know how everybody else rereads, but I just skim read and then the passages that I really enjoyed the first time around, I reread that again. But then next year I'm going to reread big series for the first time. I'm going to reread Realm of the Elderlings, and I'm probably just going to listen to the other books while driving to work because I find that a very enjoyable experience which fits you with one person most of the time, so it's very easy to follow on audiobook. And then, of course, The Song of Ice and Fire. So it's the first time that I'm going to really reread everything instead of skim reading, and I'm quite curious to see how that's going to go. Also, some reading goals for next year. Yeah, it's sad because when I look at my 2022 plans and goals video, I think that I said there a couple of times like, oh, I'm not going to pressure myself. I'm going to take it very slow and all of that stuff. And even though I have not really pressured myself, when I look back at that video, I did horrible. So I put a low bar and I went below it. And now I'm just going to put whatever I want on the list. Like last year, I tried to read a couple of well this year, but last year I put my goals for this year as reading a couple of classics, reading science fiction, and now I'm not really going to put that as a goal. I'll see when it happens. And even historical fiction, even though I want to read more of that, I'm also not going to put it as a goal. Okay, if you love Night Circus Songs, maybe reread. Well, if you're going to reread it, then I might pick it up for the first time. But yes, I was talking about the Starless Sea. I loved that cover. And that's probably also one of the reasons why I was just so interested in it. I do a lot of cover buys, and usually they don't really disappoint me. The downside is, of course, that there might be a couple of amazing series that I don't pick up because the cover is ugly. You win some, you lose some. Okay, and Hans says, Jeroen says right afterwards that he buys cover art. Okay, I'm glad that I'm not the only one. Is Marlon James going to say something ridiculous here? Probably. Is it the Red Leopard Black Wolf? That one? It's also one that I was very interested in because of the cover. It's that series at the very least. And then I heard mixed reviews, but at the very least that it was an extremely unique fantasy read. So I'm intrigued. But if you're going to read it enough, I'm just going to wait for your review to see if I want to dive into it. Some sort of sea love. That's good to hear. Okay, so it seems like most of you talking say that 30 is good. So yes, let's just do that. And then I think that Hans, you probably already left, but have fun playing Pokemon. So I'm going to see if I have a 30 because I think that we didn't have a 30-minute timer yet, right? So I'm quite excited to find a new one. Hmm, I'm not sure. So 30 minutes of reading. See you in half an hour. Okay, so I just stopped at the moment. I said that in this book there is something horrible that happens, and I think that it will happen in the course of 3 pages in total. I just read the first page of it, so I will have to read it before I go to sleep. But I don't know if that's a good idea because I very easily get nightmares, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens right now. So yeah, I am quite happy that I got this far because this is going to be the end of part one, and then I can start part two tomorrow. So even though I didn't really get that far, I will be 84 pages into the book. It's farther than I was going to be because I wasn't really into it at start, and I would have probably chosen another book if it wasn't for these prints. But now that I gotten through a couple of pages, I gotten used to the writing style, I'm much more enjoying it right now. But yeah, I'm a little bit contemplating. I want to continue reading because now I just need to. But it's also the train wreck waiting to happen, and I don't know if it might be smarter if I wait until tomorrow. Yeah, maybe not the best idea, but I wasn't really expecting it to happen this soon, which is silly because it's only 300 pages and the majority of the story is about what happens afterwards. So I should have known probably. Yeah, exactly. But it's good to hear that you got to your reading goal, Kitty. I was hoping to read more, but it is a very tiny font. Like I said, it's only 300 pages, but I think that it would have been more if it was in bigger size book instead of a mass market paperback. So I'm happy with what I have. But still, 75% True Beloved. Have you had to cry this last 30 minutes, or was it more or less doable? Yes, some more drawing of the tree. Hearing you talk about the big action scenes and how it was so much fun for you, I'm happy for you, but this just reinforces my belief that that's not the series for you. Halfway into Black Leopard Red Wolf. Not a clue what's going on. Well, I guess that I'm going to be the same way because I don't really read a lot of very unique fantasy books that are hard to follow, and I've heard that that one is a very difficult one to follow. But that if you put in the time, it's worth it. So I think that I will have to look up some more reviews because a lot of people say the same about House of Leaves. Like it's difficult to get into. You're not going to know what's going on. You're going to need to put in a lot of brain power. But once you finish it, you're going to be happy that you've read it. And I DNF that book. So I will need to watch some reviews for Black Leopard Red Wolf. I'm so glad that you finished the book during the sprint, Margarita. I think that's well, I was never going to do it, but at least I had a good start. 20 pages into Kingdom of Copper. Yes, that series is also going to go from my 2022 TBR to my 2023 TBR. I also have the audiobooks, which I didn't really realize when we were going to buddy read that entire series over summer. So maybe that means that I'll have a better time at it next year, or at least a better try. The middle is a bit dragging on. I hope that it gets more interesting soon. But the first book you loved, right, Javon? And then I think that the second one, a lot of people, well, a lot of people, I've heard some people not liking it because there is some kind of time jump. Yeah, I guess that they're the type of books where if something good happens, you just know that the downfall that will inevitably happen as well will be even more heartbreaking. Oh, okay. Thanks for the recommendations. And then I will definitely give it another try. When I picked it up, I was pretty new to fantasy. I think that I had read the first book in Wheel of Time at that point, and that was one of the earlier ones at that point that I picked up. So maybe that's also why I had some difficulties with the. It is a pretty well. I think we have three different places in the world that we're at, and I think that I wanted to have some more understanding earlier into the story. While now I'm more used to it's a big fantasy world. It's going to take a little bit of time before you are very well familiarized with everything. It's good to hear that. Well, you're not really enjoying the read, maybe, but you love to rant about things, and that it's giving you a lot of ideas. That's good to hear, Paromita. I didn't even try it, to be honest. I think that I got 4 chapters in, if even that. But I picked it up during my reading slump in July, and I was well. We were going to buddy read with a couple of people on Discord. The days of that trilogy, July, August, and then September, if I'm not mistaken. And I maybe read 2 books in those 3 months. And well, City of Cross was not one of them. So I it definitely deserves another chance because that was definitely a me problem and not a book problem. Okay, so then I do remember that correctly. I don't really mind time jumps, especially not if it's between books. It feels less jarring than when it is in one book. So I don't really think that I'll have an issue with it. I I've been saying that I need to go to the gym for years now, but I always get a little bit too um, well. I can sit in the car and think, okay, I'm going to the gym now, and then it just never really happens because I get a little bit of anxiety about it. So I'm trying to be well productive in another way. Just going on a walk with the dogs, I already count that as a win. But maybe someday I'll go to the gym. Okay, that's that. And did you like the third one, Vicky? I Is that the one where you have an entire reading block for the trilogy? I'm not entirely sure, but I think you have. I hope that at least the ending is also satisfactory. Ooh, okay, so the good stuff is happening. Culture in this chapter in that book. Hmm, okay. Marlene, I like the way you think. A monthly donation. Well, I haven't even gotten the membership yet, so I mean that's probably the first step I should take. But yeah, I just know that it's going to be money that I just throw away or donate, as you like to put it. So, you guys, first of all, really thank you for joining me tonight. It was a really enjoyable reading sprint. I feel like I've been way more productive than I would have been if we weren't really doing sprints. But at this moment, I am very tired. It's past my bedtime, so I'm going to go to sleep. I hope to see you in Discord afterwards. Definitely let me know if you've been making progress after these reading sprints, especially if you're in a different part of the world. Maybe it's afternoon right now, or if you're not a grandma like me and you're actually going to stay up a little bit later. But thank you all for joining, and definitely let me know if you want to see more of these in the future because I do plan to do that weekly. And as I said in the community tab, with plan to do them weekly means I'll be happy if they happen once in a while. But a girl can dream, right? Thanks for joining, and I hope that you really enjoyed this video. And see you next time. Bye.